Hi, and welcome to Craft Along with Jay. I'm so happy you could join me today. Today I'm participating in the First of the Month challenge, and the theme for this month is Patriotic DIYs. The hosts are Krista's Crafty Life and Rustic and Lace DIY. And when you're done with this video, don't forget to go down in my description box and check out the playlist. You are doomed to get inspired. Okay, project number one. I'm going to have one of these metal mason jar shaped things from the Dollar Tree and one of these square wood hanging signs from the Dollar Tree. It's a window cling, and I'm going to use that one right there. And I got some red, white, and blue flowers. I got some Jenga blocks. Then I got Crimson Red by Waverly, some Plaster by Waverly, and Folk Arts True Blue. The first thing I do is taking some painter's tape, and I'm going to do it alongside one side of my wood board, then just a smaller piece just to get the same distance in between the stripes. And I do that all the way across. And then I'm kind of short a little bit on the side, so my measurements weren't really what I thought they were. So I'm just moving things over just a little bit. So there's a small edge on each side, just to balance things out and keeping it equal. There we go. And then just come up that little small piece right there. Then I'll take the smaller pieces off in between. And then I'm starting with the crimson red. Yeah, my wood square is not completely straight, so I had to kind of measure it because it looked a little bit off, but the distance in between was just right. All right, so we start with the crimson red, and then I'm going to do true blue. And then on the last one, I'm going to do, a second to last one would be plaster. I'm using a smaller brush, and it didn't really do great coverage wise, so I ended up switching to a um, more like a sponge or foam brush instead, just to kind of smooth it out. And that seemed to do the trick. Much better coverage and just evenly distributed. And then I'm doing that little small piece at the side in the crimson red. And after that, I'm going to let that dry, I think. Let's see. Yep, it's dry. And then I move some of the tape over. So where I have painted with the crimson red, I put the painter's tape on top to cover, and then I put it over the true blue as well. So when I paint in between, it's not um, painting on the other colors. So here I'm doing the plaster, and then I'll move the tape over and cover. I'll take another piece, yeah. Move the tape over and cover the plaster, and then in between I'll do the crimson red. And then on the last column that needs to get painted will be true blue. And there we go. And then I decided I wanted to distress it a little bit. So I'm taking some antique wax, just doing some light distressing at first to kind of figure out how I want it to look as I go along. And then I just go over the whole wood square. And then I decided that that wasn't quite enough and it was harder to tell on the red and the blue, so I took some white chalk paint and then I'm doing some white distressing as well. And I really, really like how that turned out. That was like the look that I was going for, and I'm happy with it. And then I'm taking my little window cling and I'm going to Mod Podge it onto the mason jar. just like that. And then I'm just positioning my Jenga blocks, just so it's kind of like a 3D effect on my wood board. So I'm just using some wood glue, hot glue, I think. And I'm gluing two on each side and then one at the bottom. And then I decided that the wood plank still kind of needed a little bit more definition, so I'm using some brown paint and just kind of with a small brush going down along the edge. I'm not worried about being straight or anything like that. It was just kind of the look I was going for. And then I'm taking my flowers, bending up the bottom, and then push it into my mason jar. And I had also used that little cord, handle cord, and just glued it on top of the mason jar, just to give it a little bit more. And I'm just kind of playing around with the flowers, having them kind of lean forward a little bit so you can see them when it's hanging up. And then I just put a twine cord around the top as a hanger and make it a nice kind of rusticy look. I really like it. What do you think about this one? Let me know down in the comment section. A comment section, comic. Oh my goodness. Project number 2. I got this wood book from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint that with some white paint. And I'm going to use the star on top of this yardstick. And I got some ribbon, but I'm kind of changing my mind as I'm going along. I kind of came up with something else instead. And I like that better anyway, so that kind of worked out. And after I painted, I'm taking my antique wax and I'm going to distress it around the edges. And then I'm going to distress the whole thing after. Yeah, just going up and down. Give it a nice rustic farmhousey look. And then I'm using some tacky glue and I'm just putting a little bit around the edges. It's a little bit hard because it's such a tiny edge, so I'm kind of using my fingers to help out, and then I'll put it down. And I'll use my little clips to hold it in place and let it sit for a few hours to let it dry. Yeah, like I'm doing right here. And then I'll let that set. And then here's where I changed my mind with the bow. I took out some wood letters and I picked up U, S, and A, and I'm gonna paint the U with the crimson red. And I think the S is the white and the A is blue. And then I end up distressing those as well. And I think I used both the antique wax and the white paint. And then I'm taking some nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to go around the edge of my wood book. Kind of frame it in. I think that looks really nice. And then I'm going to position my letters at the top just to get the placement in before I start gluing it. Then I start with the middle one just to get that spaced out first, and then I can do the other two on either side. There we go. And it's just a really simple project, but it turns out so nice. It's like a nice shelf sitter. I love it. And I do add a Jenga block to the back just to help it stand, just because I put that nautical rope around the outer edge. It gives it a little bit of bump at the bottom. So there's the Jenga block, and there it is. What do you think about this one? Let me know. Project number 3. I'm going to use some of this beautiful fabric from Walmart, the Bless sign for Walmart, and this wood sign from Walmart as well. And then I'm going to just figure out how I want to cut out my fabric to cover the wood sign. And then I'll flip it over position it, and then I'll just use a pencil and I'll trace around the wood sign a couple of times. And then yeah, you see me do that right here. And then I'll cut it out. And then I'm using some tacky glue and I'm using a brush to spread it onto my wood sign, and then I'll lay the fabric down just a small section at a time. Had a little extra glue sitting there. And I just kind of line it up along the edges and smooth it out. And I do that for the whole piece of fabric. Then once I've done that, I'm just using my antique wax and I am brushing it onto my plus sign, and then I'm wiping off the excess. As you see right there. And I guess we gotta watch that whole bee getting done. You definitely got the idea what I'm doing here. And then once I'm done with that here in just 1 second, I'm putting that to the side to dry, and I just cut a piece of this ribbon. I believe this is from the Dollar Tree. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure how long of the piece. I just kind of randomly picked the length. Ended up working out for me. Just adding some glue on the edge and overlapping it and glue them together. And then I'm taking another piece to make a tail for my bow. So I'm scrunching it up in the middle just to see how it looks and how big I should do the tail and how to attach them. I'm just trying to figure it all out, but first I'm tying around the bow first. And then I'm scrunching up the tail too and kind of pushing either side of the tail down. And then I'll tie that around the bow as well. And then you know me, I like to fluff around with my bows for a while to get it just right in my mind. So I'm working on it here. And I ducktail the tails as well. I do end up making them a little bit shorter, the tails. They were a little bit too long for me. So I'm kind of measuring out where I want it and how I want it laid out. And still playing around with this bow. And then I decide I need a little frame around the sign, so I'm using the nautical rope once again, and kind of just going along the edge on the top side this time. Just showing you I'm making good progress. And here I'm cutting it and finishing it up. And I think that made a big difference. I really like that border around there. Goes well with the theme. And then I'm going to prepare to glue on my pieces, my bow at the bottom, excuse me, and the blessed sign on top. And I think for the blessed sign, I am using tacky glue, I believe. I just use hot glue for the bow. Still fluffing it out. And then here, yeah, I use some tacky glue, and I'm just putting on the back of the sign and pressing it down. And then I decided I wanted to use antique wax on the back side of my sign. And there it is. And I just used some nautical rope for the hanger. I think it turned out really beautiful. What do you think about this one? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, for this last one, I'm using 3 terracotta pots from the Dollar Tree, Plaster by Waverly, True Blue by Folk Art, and Crimson by Waverly. I'm going to use this star stencil, and that's from Temu, some floral foam. I do not use the moss, it wasn't really needed. And then I got these stars and striped flowers from the Dollar Tree, and I end up using 2 picks of those. And I'm going to paint each terracotta pot with each of the colors. And then I'm using the stencil sign. I'm just holding it in place. It's a little awkward because it goes around the pot and you can't really tape it down. So I'm just holding it and doing one star at a time. And on the white one, you can see I already got the red stars. So on the blue one, I'm doing white stars. And then on the red one, I'm going to do blue stars. And I do that all the way around. And then I put some floral foam in there. And then I'm just kind of figuring out if I'm going to use skewers or wood dowels to connect them all. Just trying to see what works with the holes at the bottom of the terracotta pots. But as you'll see here with just the skewer and adding all 3 of the pots on, it's kind of wobbly. It wasn't falling over, but it was wobbly. So I'm deciding not to use the skewers. But then with the wood dowels, they don't fit through the holes at the bottom of the terracotta pots. So I'll have to cut them to size and then glue them. You'll see me do that here, kind of measured. And then I'll use my pencil and kind of mark where I want to cut it. And then I'm going to cut it. And then I'll get another one the same size as that one. So you need 2 pieces. And I'm just trying to see the distance in between the 2 pots. And then here again, I'm marking it and then cutting it. And I'll use some hot glue at the bottom and I'll stick it down into the blue pot. Kind of make sure it's straight. Then I'll put some glue on that and some glue on the white terracotta pot at the bottom and connect them and hold it till the glue dries. And then I do the same thing for the red one. And that definitely helped quite a bit. It's not wobbly. But I think I will. It's been a few days since I made it and it's still intact. It hasn't fallen over or anything like that. But I do think I want to go back with some E6000 and attach the pots to the wood dowels as well, just to give it a little extra security of holding in place. So if you want to recreate this, I would probably suggest using something else with the hot glue, just to give it a stronger bond. And it doesn't necessarily have to be E6000. There's other things that can be used as well. And here I'm just adding the flowers. I'm using 2 stripes on each pot, and then I'm using no, I'm using 2 of each, 2 of the stars and 2 of the stripes. And I'm alternating as they go around the pot. And I couldn't get the whole thing into the view of the camera, but you can kind of see some of it here, and you'll see it in the finished view as well, what it looks like. But I'm really in love with this one. I think it's like gorgeous. I love it. Don't forget to let me know in the comment section below what do you think about this one as well. There it is, all done. And now on to the finished view. So here it is. You can see the whole thing. What do you think? I love it. And I like the simplicity of the design. Anyway, don't forget to check out the playlist down in my description box. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you stopping by today. Until next time.